Check this out. At a gig the other night, I was wondering how many different drum beats I've played in my life. Hundreds? Thousands? Tens of thousands? There's really no way of knowing the exact number, but it got me to re-examine the way I think about drum beats. For anyone who doesn't read music, let's quickly go over some basics. Music is written on a set of 5 lines and 4 spaces called a staff. We read music left to right just like English. For drums, each line and each space correspond to a different thing to hit on the drum set. To keep things simple, we're going to get rid of most of the drum set and only focus on these 3 voices: the kick drum, the snare drum, and the hi-hat. Now, in my career, most of what I've needed to play has been some variation of the following pattern. Let's see what that looks like written out. All you really need to know is that this drum beat consists of 8 counts. These are the hi-hat hits, these are the snare drum, and these are the kick drum. Whenever 2 notes are written on top of one another, it means that they are played simultaneously. Let's hear that drum beat again slowly. Now at full speed. When I considered the fact that an enormous chunk of what I've been paid to play is just some slight variation on this pattern, I decided to take this framework and figure out just how many different combinations were possible within these basic parameters. Let me show you what I found. Just like the drum beat we examined, I limited my calculations to just the hi-hat, snare drum, and kick drum. For each count, there are 8 unique combinations of those 3 instruments. Let's examine them individually. We can play nothing or rest. We can play the hi-hat alone. We can play the snare drum alone. And we can play the bass drum alone. We can also play the hi-hat and kick drum together, the hi-hat and snare drum together, and the snare drum and kick drum together. And finally, we can play all 3 simultaneously. But what does that mean when we put it all together in the context of an actual drum beat? It means on any one count, we can play any one of those 8 possibilities. What happens if we add a second count? To calculate that, we multiply those first 8 possibilities by another 8 possibilities for the second count, which inflates our total number of possibilities for the pattern to 64. To figure out the number of combinations for 4 counts, we need to multiply 8 times 8 times 8 times 8. The number of possible drum beats for those 3 voices in just 4 counts is a staggering 4,096. We can actually use a very simple formula to calculate this figure for any number of counts. We can use x to the y. X is the number of combinations possible for any one beat, in this case 8, and y is the total number of counts being considered. For example, using our 3 voices over a measure of 8 counts balloons our total number of combinations to an astounding 16,777,216. 16 million! And we haven't even gotten to 16th notes yet, not to mention introducing accents or anything like that. I truly can't decide if this information inspires me to think more creatively about my playing, or if the immensity of what I've not yet even thought to play depresses me to my core. Well, if it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing. Here are a few more calculations I've made that are a bit more esoteric. Let's say that we wanted the option to open the hi-hat. Essentially, we need to take every possibility where we play the hi-hat and double it. Over the course of 8 beats, the option to open the hi-hat makes our grand total of possible drum patterns 429,981,696. And what if we wanted to add a 4th voice, like a cowbell played by the left foot? For every count, we now can play any of these 16 possibilities. Over 8 counts, that makes our grand total 4,294,967,296. Heck, if we only use our original three voices without opening the hi-hat or anything, and we do it over a measure of 16 counts, the number of possible unique drum patterns is over 281 trillion. Now, it's true, most of these combinations wouldn't be very practical, nor would many of them even be musical. Still, I found it fascinating that even after nearly 25 years of playing drums, I've explored only a tiny fraction of what's possible.